to properly charge your tenants for utility reimbursement. This is one of the key areas you want to make sure you do correctly, but when well done, can add huge amount of value to your buildings. So, of course, you can do separately metered utilities, or you can do a RUBS, a reimbursement program for utilities. But first, let's talk about the cost to do that. So if you do a separately metered utility program, that can cost a pretty substantial money typically, and you may wonder, is it really worth it for me to pay that? So let's take, for instance, if you spend $100,000 to separately meter a lot of your utilities, and it's going to save you $10,000 a year. That's going to be 10 years to make that back. You might say, I'm not going to own this building 10 years, it's not worth it. However, keep in mind the future value that that adds to the property. So if that $10,000 at a 6.5 cap, it actually puts you at $153,000 additional value in that building. So it's definitely worth it to do it if it costs you $100,000, if you're going to earn back not only during your ownership, but also at the time of sale and additional amounts as well. So you can separately meter, of course, electric and gas typically pretty easily. The harder one is water, but if you install a smart meter that can feed right back to your computer, you can easily charge your tenants and really be quite a lot simpler than you think it might be. Secondly, you could do a RUBS, a reimbursement program, which doesn't require that you divide up all the utilities physically, but what you're doing is dividing them up on paper. So this is really important that if you're going to institute a RUBS program, that you follow proper documentation to make sure you don't get tagged as a utility provider, because if you are, you're going to get in a whole lot of trouble if you're not following all the rules and regulations regarding utility providers. So you as an individual investor, make sure you're following a proper RUBS program with documentation that you can provide to your tenants when you are billing them for those costs, so that you don't get in trouble later on. But you'll also have the benefit of having that utility reimbursement to add to the value of your building later. So it's well worth spending the money for a quality program in order to make sure you're doing it right. So if you're an investor, make sure you're instituting one of those two things, and you'll be very glad that you did so later.